So this weekend I went to NABJ, and I also was just outside a lot this week. And this whole summer, I've actually been outside a lot. And I got a chance to do something that I don't normally get to do, which is I got to have a real-time focus group of multiple people. NABJ, which is the National Association of Black Journalists, which is effectively all the main, not all, but a lot of the main Black journalists in America. They kind of meet each other, right? They meet each other in some city each and every year. They've been doing it since the 80s. This year was in Atlanta. I bring this up because I went to a couple birthday parties, a couple social events this past weekend. I talked to just regular people, and the conversation that kept coming up, especially here in Atlanta, was, can Keisha Lance Bottoms win? What's going on with Keisha Lance Bottoms' campaign? How do people feel? And I want to be honest, I think for the average person, the normies, I think for most of them, they feel as if the Keisha Lance Bottoms campaign is either lackadaisical, lacking effort, or it's just dead in the water. And I don't think for the average person that they're wrong. I actually do think in this case, the normal average person, and not necessarily the political class, the pundit class, the people who are hyper fixated on polls and inner workings of politics, they're not wrong. This is juxtaposed to Rick Jackson, who is a billionaire and who is just dominating the headlines. He's, in a lot of ways, he's using a lot of the same strategies that Trump used in 2016, which is focus on affinity groups, use local TV and use national TV to really carry your campaign over, despite spending a lot of money on ads. And when they do spend money, mostly the money is on Facebook ads and digital ads, and also local television and local broadcasts. So it is a cost-effective strategy that's getting more amplers, right? So if you look at something like the AJC, which is, again, a conservative-owned paper, I don't know why people keep thinking about this, but WSP, which is also conservative, and all local media stations, right? The number of times Rick Jackson just simply is mentioned in the actual publication, whether it be on their website, in their social feeds, on their actual broadcast, is like around 3-1 right now compared to Keisha Lance Bottoms. So much so that most people don't know, normies don't know that Keisha is actually running. And for the people who do run, it feels as if like Rick is bigger than what he is. And he kind of is right now because he's spending a lot of money. But that is where we get to the other part with Keisha Lance Bottoms. So I was talking to some buddies, many of which who have friends and family like Middle Georgia, South Georgia, and all they see is like yard signs, posters, billboards about Rick Jackson. And I think that that's going to actually be important for the Keisha Lance Bottoms campaign going forward, which is if Rick Jackson is taking effectively all of her ways to kind of get her way out there, which is he's flooding his zone on radio, he's flooding his zone on TV, he's flooding his zone with like his supporters, doing affinity groups, like the Toast on Linux is like kind of like an affinity group meeting, like you meeting people, trying to see if there's a balance. That's going to keep dominating the headlines. And then the social feed, once the conservative media really starts picking up like they're doing right now, they're mostly trying to help Mike Collins to get some leverage on John Ossoff. But once they turn it on for Rick Jackson, it's going to feel as if it's overwhelming, to the point where it almost will be overwhelming to the point that most people will forget that Keisha is even in the running. If that's the case, then Keisha's campaign is in real trouble. The polling says that she can win, and that's probably right. That's if every steadfast Democrat, every traditional Democrat, every never Trump Republican comes out and votes, she could probably, not guaranteed, but probably win, which is always her calculus. But for the normal people, if this race does get tight and Rick Jackson really starts closing the gap, which I think he does, the enthusiasm gap, the everyday person gap of what people think about Keisha Lance Bottoms is actually going to start creeping up a lot. Because when I talk to people at NABJ, when I talk to people normally at a bunch of different events like I did this weekend, I will guarantee maybe a third of the people didn't know there was an election happening in November. They didn't know that Keisha was the candidate. And if they did, they felt very severely underwhelmed by the candidate. And this is something where money, like I mentioned before, and reach is a factor, but the candidate quality is too right now. For most people, when they see a Keisha ad, they see maybe a mention of her, it doesn't have the same enthusiasm that they're expecting for somebody to run. Yes, we may have issues with a lot of Democratic candidates over the last decade, but when it comes to Hillary or Kamala, or even on the state level here in Stacey with those 2 elections that she ran, it feels as if those candidates in particular really put in the effort. And what I mean by that is they showed up at a lot of places. What they made up for in maybe ad spend, they showed up with just on the ground supporters, on the ground people knocking doors, going to meetings, and it doesn't feel like that. And I think that that's one of the issues going forward with Keisha's campaign, is it feels as if she's just coming and clocking in like 9 to 5. And if you want to really get the drum machine, especially if you don't have money, is like you got to turn it up to the point where people feel like you're everywhere. And I actually do think there's a real person to copy in this regard, and it's Andre Dickens. And I know as much as people love Mondani right now, Andre was doing that 5 years ago, and he's been the same for the last 5 years, which is Andre or his staff, or even when he was running in those 2 elections that he ran, they always felt they was touchable. Like you could talk to them, you could email them, you go to the office, you can go to the campaign headquarters, and now he's the mayor's office, and they were in the social feed. what you can't make up for, and money you can't make up for, and effort. And then with Keisha in particular, it's just like letting people feel the energy. And right now, the actual energy, like there was some she did a talk at Jack and Jill not too while ago. People felt a little like, you got to start bringing that energy. You got to have that dog in you. And I think right now the issue is people don't feel like they got that dog in there with Keisha. And even if she is campaigning on things like Medicaid for all, it feel like it's falling flat because it feels like a campaign for 4 or 5 years ago, and there's no energy behind it, and there's no social feed, and there's no money. So it feels like this candidate in particular is just really treading water. And I think if they really want to turn this up now, going into October, not November, October, the next 6 weeks need to just be almost to the point where while she doesn't have any money, it needs to feel like Keisha is everywhere. That means her campaign, people need to just pull out their phone like I'm doing, record stuff. They need to just be moving everywhere. There shouldn't be a place in which you don't feel like Keisha is walking everywhere. Not just in Metro Atlanta, but like give back love to Savannah and Augusta and Athens and the Black Belt that we're talking about right here. And even places like Valdosta, Albany, and Columbus. Like these are the places that really will put you over, and they help win and they help close the gap for Stacey. But when you talk to people down there, they have not, for the most part, they haven't seen them. Normies, not political people, normies. And I think that if Keisha is going to win, if she wants to win, they got to put in that effort. Basically, no sleep. You're putting in 24-hour days for the next six or 7 weeks. And I think that changes it. And then also that comes to another point, which is a lot of people have felt as if, like talking honestly, is that Keisha was never their candidate, and they really, really hate that Stacey didn't run this time, right? Because I think that the energy for a second Stacey campaign was this year, and I think a lot of other people felt the same way as well, versus like 4 years ago. And so now people have seen like what the cream of the crop looks like with Stacey in terms of energy, in terms of like having a clear plan, a clear point of reference point, a clear attack lines, and clear what they're going to stand for if they get into office. And they don't get that at all with Keisha. And I think that that's kind of the issue, which is long term. Can Keisha really turn this up, right? Like when she needs to. And really, it's not about being like likable and like the political class is saying. It's really just about making people feel as if you got that dog in you. And while you don't have money, make that the campaign. Like we don't have that money, but we got that dog in us. And right now it feels like mostly treading water. It doesn't feel like a campaign as much as it feels like she's on a press run for a book. And I think that she needs to do better. Like her stands and her supporters will be in the comments attacking and doing all that. But she and her team got to make up for that gap. And so right now, talking to everyday people, even at NABJ, she had something and like nobody cared. There's like, she was at InvestFest and nobody cared. The Keisha Lance Bottoms calculus has to be this. You got to identify what you stand for, but you've got to show effort right now, because right now people want to feel like they have some skin in the game, and no amount of people online cheering for you and saying, like, especially the same type of Atlanta political class saying, oh, we support Keisha, we love Keisha. No, it's got to be like, these people online are really making the efforts for me. There should not be like people like Arua Roman or even people she lost like Jason Estevez. She being like, they should not be more online and more responsive to some of these attacks than your own staff is, right? Not Keisha herself, but her staff. Like I shouldn't have to always depend on Isaac Hayes III to give me updates on Keisha Lance Bottoms or other black politicians. It should be coming from your team. That's the issue, right? You don't have money. You're not going to have money. The Democratic Party of Georgia has no money. Everybody's broke. The whole Democratic side just broke. And you can't ride on the coattails of Ossoff enough to get you on it. They got to run their own campaign. They got a lot of other stuff they got to go with. You got to run it. And then if I'm Keisha, the other thing I would say is think about down ballot, right? Secretary of State, Lieutenant Governor, do those things down, build those bridges, Insurance Commissioner, Labor Commissioner, the Public Service Commissioners. You have no money, bring those people together and work together as a unit, right? Like none of y'all have money. All y'all should be working as a unit. All y'all should be knocking doors. All y'all should be talking together, being in each other's videos, feeds, showing up at somebody's grandma's birthday, some quinceañera, whatever is around, be there. Have that dog in you, tacos ready to go. So this was a long rant, and I'm out.